Welcome back to the Blueprint Podcast with your host. I'm Zach Hire.
And I'm Spencer Maxwell. And today we have on a special guest by a man named Dalton. And Dalton owns Jireh Junk Haulers. He absolutely crushes it. Yes, you can crush it in the junk hauling business. And he is a trailblazer for the industry here in Dayton, Ohio. Tremendous guy. Above all his business accolades, he is a God-fearing man. Great husband, great father. So,
Dalton, great to have you on.
How are
man.
you?
I'm great. Thank you guys for having me.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So, Dalton, I guess let's get right into it. Tell us a little bit about your story when it comes to business, when it comes to life. What has made you you? What has programmed you in order to be such a successful entrepreneur and Christian as well?
So, from birth, I was born with the entrepreneurial mindset. God just gave it to me, but didn't connect the dots or couldn't connect the success until I was born again. I was a heathen of a man for a long, long time. I was in the Navy. I was, living the life that I wanted to live. And my parents weren't Christian. I didn't know what that was like. I accepted Jesus at 15 and walked away from the faith. Didn't have much of the Bible in me, to be honest. But just living life for myself and pretty selfish, and ended up like my father and my grandfather before me, becoming an alcoholic. And through all that, I guess the original question, and get back to it. Once I was born again, I could lay the sin aside, lay the bad things aside, and then put the focus into the God-given abilities of being an entrepreneur. And I didn't really connect those dots until God laid it out for me. So I never thought that this was an industry that anybody made money in. I never thought anything about it at all until God put me in this situation, this position.
So since you didn't think anything about it, how did you even get into it?
That's what I was going to say. Like, how did that come about?
So I was working. I just accepted Jesus, right?
And when was that?
That was, so I accepted Jesus basically 2021, I believe, in April.
Okay.
Mark that down in my calendar as my born again date.
Very
Once I
nice.
had finally come to the end of myself. And at that point, I had taken us down a rabbit hole of, we're going to be successful in real estate. We moved from Pensacola, Florida to Dayton, Ohio. My wife has some family here, and I thought Wright-Patterson might be a good backup for my skill set. And nothing worked out. It was like God was holding that door shut, and that's before I acknowledged God. And eventually it got to the point there in 2021 where I accepted Jesus, April 2021. And then remind me where we are. What are we talking about?
We're just talking about how you kind of got into the space that you're in currently. Like, how did you start that junk business?
So that's where it ties in. So basically, I'd spend basically down to our last dollar. Ended up having to take a job regardless. And I was working actually for Ryan Homes, the Ryan Home manufacturer. I was one of the guys in the factory pre-building everything, and then they ship it out to the job site. And that was not a way to build back out of the hole I created. And my buddy, I'd been rolling with Jesus just for a little while now. My buddy, he had this dumpster business where you call it a dumpster, right? The house needs trashed out or needs. So I was his only employee, and he started me off. And the natural question that comes along when you rent a dumpster and you see the prices, well, how much you just charge me to fill it?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And I was his just fill it guy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was a driver as well, but I filled the dumpster. And, coming from Eastern Kentucky, poor background, it's like people pay that kind of money to, and they do. And God gave me a brain for business. So I was like, man, the margins are good. The work is very difficult. But you can make a good living doing this. And that's basically where it all started as far as me realizing that this industry existed. I knew people had to get rid of trash, but I just thought, like most people, well, Rumpke.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But when you get in a situation where you've got to trash out a whole house,
Right.
Rumpke's not.
Yeah.
Right.
They're not going to take that for free.
Yeah.
Right.
So that's kind of how I got into it.
Interesting. So you said that you were in Pensacola, Florida.
Mm-hmm.
Of all the different places you moved to Dayton, Ohio, is that because of Wright Pat? or what was the reason why you came to Dayton of all places? And also, sorry to continue on with that. You said that you were going to do it in real estate.
Hmm.
What kind of took you from that position to where you are now? And sorry, that's a loaded question. Let's just start with the Pensacola to Dayton. Why Dayton? And then we can go to the next one.
So to peel back some of my insanity, right before I had gotten out of the Navy, I had done a deployment to Africa. I spent a year in Djibouti, Africa, the armpit of Africa, and never a more bleak place. Never, I think it's the second hottest place in the world.
Oh,
In Christmas, it was 85, 90 degrees during the winter months. Anyway, I find bigger pockets. Right, that's where it all starts. Bigger pockets.
Yep.
And I'm like, because at that point, I no longer, when I was in Africa, I no longer had alcohol to distract me. So it was like, this mindset, I just got to put all my energy into something. Very addictive mindset. And I was like, okay, real estate is going to be the answer. That's going to fix it. That's going to make all the problems go away. It's making a lot of money in real estate. That's going to be my new God, right? So I devoured, I think at that point there were like 300 and some, 400 and some podcasts. And every single one of them, probably read 5 different, Bigger Pockets books. And I was like, no, I know how to do it. I want to do real estate. Yeah. And it was in wholesaling. That's where I was going to start big because, you got no cash, you wholesale, right? Flip contracts. So the reason I switched from Pensacola to Dayton, sorry for the long-winded answer, but we hated Florida.
Yeah,
it was just brutally hot.
Yeah, you were like, I've already been in heat in Djibouti. I need to get out of the Florida
heat. Interesting, man. Because my wife and I, we used to live in Tampa.
Yeah,
and we loved it, man. Really? Well, she likes the cooler months. I loved it, and I think more so than anything, I just hate the winters up north.
I couldn't do the year-round heat though.
The problem for me, and when I finally kind of broke, was. We have like a nice little, when we bought our first home, it was a nice little starter home. And the backyard's completely covered against the woods so nobody can see you, right? And I don't know, for whatever reason, maybe it's all this testosterone running through my blood or whatever, but I'm a caveman, so I like to be outside. So it's 3 o'clock in the morning and I wake up and I got to use it. So I just, go on the back porch and it's 3 o'clock in the morning and it is 85 degrees, 90% humidity. And I'm like, it just never stops.
Yeah.
It's like this is the coolest time of day, and it's brutally hot all the time. You either get used to it and adapt, or you just start chafing. I don't know.
That's true.
So that was part of it. And her family was up here, so we were just trying to be around family.
Okay.
Even though that kind of fell through.
Okay. Gotcha. That makes sense. So that gives you a direction of why, the Dayton area.
Yeah, and I knew real estate was a little bit cheaper. So I could probably start in a little bit cheaper.
Yep.
You don't know what you know until you get started. And
certainly.
It was just, we could have done that in Florida.
So did God just shut that door on real estate then?
Essentially, yeah. I mean, I'd done everything I could do. I eventually ended up getting my license. I ended up working for another company, Flip and Danny Robertson. They own Freedom Real Estate Group. Great couple, great business and everything. And I worked for them in their sales department, basically between cold calling leads and, taking in warm leads and things like that for, either deals that we would close ourselves and flip, or whether they would wholesale. And, when you're down bad cash flow wise and you're learning, it's really tough. Just like starting out as a new agent, trying to go off that and be your main income. You're waiting 30 days. If it doesn't close, you're not getting paid.
Exactly. Exactly.
There was no salary. It was all commission. So, and not that I was bad at that, just that in the midst of that, I had started a flip with a partner, and the contractor ended up just being an absolute disaster and horror story. And I was like, well, I can do it,
Mm-hmm.
And between me and the partner's father, we ended up finishing the flip. And I quit my job to be able to do that, because now I was working 100-hour weeks at the flip. This is just pre-Jesus, so there's no sense in anything that I'm doing.
Yeah.
But I thought I was doing what was best, and we ended up splitting a check of $5,000. So we walk away with
Oh.
2,500 a piece. So
Oh my goodness. And all that work for
I
Oh.
was like, that was a sour taste in my mouth for real estate for one.
Yeah.
But if you follow the principles, I mean, if we would have got in $20,000 cheaper, been smarter about how we did our rehab, things like that, it would have worked out better.
Yeah.
But you really need cash and probably a sustainable job to support that.
Mhm.
You can't just go in with a dream and a couple $100 and get it done. It's just there's this thing out there in real estate. It's like no money down, no money down. Well,
takes money
Yeah.
to make money.
yeah,
Takes money to
Yeah.
make money. Yeah.
well, maybe you can grind it out, but eventually you get tired of grinding.
Yeah.
Certainly.
Well, not a lot of money, but a big lesson there.
Yes.
So,
We didn't lose any money. So
yeah, exactly. So fast forward to you realizing with your buddy that you could be making some money in this industry. Tell us what made you start Jireh Junk Haulers, or what it looked like when you did start it.
So my boss at this time was the dumpster owner. Again, I was his only employee, and he was a Christian man as well. So he's a Christian man in business. And I don't know if just God put it on his heart to tell me or whatever, but I just talked to, I love talking about business. Jesus and business is, I like to learn. I love to learn. And he just encouraged me. He said, you should start your own. And I was like, I'm going to be your competitor. You know that, right?
Yeah, you don't hear that too
Yeah.
often.
But he encouraged me. He's like, no, you start your own, man. If you can make it happen, make it happen. Which, very, very generous of him. Isaac Back, he owns All Pro Dumpsters. That guy's great. Me and him talk all the time, but still to this day. And now mainly he does dumpsters. So, that was kind of the delineation, but he also done them on the side. So I still would be his competition. But I bought his old piece of crap Chuck for $2,000. Didn't have $2,000 in my pocket. So I had him take $250 out of my paycheck for 8 weeks during the middle of the winter when business is slow, and that really hurt. And I didn't know if it was going to run because it hadn't run in 6 months. But he had run it as a dumpster, truck, and everything had a gooseneck hitch and everything, so it was ready to go. And had no idea, so he couldn't get it to run, and he was a former diesel mechanic. So I was like, "Well, Lord, if you want me to have it, I'll go in for it." And I didn't hear no. So, and at this time, I'm learning to walk with the Lord, right? I'm learning to kind of grow and to understand and to hear His voice. But I didn't hear a bold no, and I was praying for a no. And so I bought that truck and put a battery in it. And there was a part of the ECU, the engine control unit, that wasn't plugged in. I plugged it in and it fired right up. So set of used tires, and away we go.
Very nice.
And that was Jireh Junk Haulers' first truck.
That was Jireh Junk Haulers' first truck, the Black Pearl. She's rough.
Do you still have that truck today?
No, gosh, no. I sold it once we got the truck that's out there, the green truck. It was a little bit newer, a little bit. When you're starting out and when you have work, as in like a normal full-time job, well, no big deal. If everything goes south, you can kind of take your time and figure it out. But when you've got a crew on the road and their paychecks are counting on you, you can't put a piece of junk out there, and just let it ride.
Mm-hmm.
You got to try to improve your fighting position, So we bought a little bit newer, a little bit less used truck, and we ran that for another year, and then now we have the brand new one.
So when did you? What year did you buy that truck from your old boss? When was that?
Oh gosh, 2022.
So this is all happening pretty quick.
This is pretty quick.
Yeah, this is pretty recent, honestly.
That's
everything
2 years
so
ago.
fast. I bought that truck in the year 2022, and it was in that winter time, in the start of the year, and then I went full time in it's 2024. That's a lie. I bought it, and I was doing jobs in 2022 because I formed my LLC in September of 2022. So it was actually in the latter part of the year, and then I went full time in April 2023.
Nice.
Okay.
So,
Wow.
Yeah.
Dang.
Full time to that point to where we bought a new truck was 6 months later, something like that.
And how quickly did you start hiring people to work for you?
The first month, I did it all myself, every bit of it.
Okay.
And you cannot do that. it's impossible when you have basements, when you have things like that.
Yeah.
So I just, for the first, part time, I did it definitely on myself, and just hopefully would find somebody from church or somebody that could help me if there's a couch in the basement or something,
Mhm.
get it figured out. But I believe it was in May, so it was like basically a month in where I was like, no, I got to get somebody, and it was kind of a God ordained thing. Met a guy at a taco stand and hired him. He's the hardest worker I have ever hired. Love Aaron, but you know, uh, he had his issues, and he eventually had ended up taking off. But for the time that he was there, he was a huge blessing in my business, and that's part of learning is that not everybody's here to stay forever.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah, for sure. So let me ask you this. The hiring process, did you have any experience in that, or
No.
were you just completely figuring it out as you went? And then
No.
to current day, like the Aaron, you met him just,
Mhm.
Organically at a taco stand.
Yep.
Moving forward, how did you go about that process? Were you just meeting people that you, or like hiring people that you knew pre-existingly, or were you like using Indeed? Like, what did that look like?
So first it was Aaron, and then when Aaron was gone, it was like now we actually have to learn how to really hire people. But still, it's a process, and you don't know. So you just post on Indeed, and someone applies, and the first guy that applies, it's not, got a ankle bracelet straight out of prison. You're like, okay, well, they'll work out maybe.
Right.
And then you go along and you get your heart broken, or your feelings hurt, or something like that. In terms of, they're just not living up to expectations, or like I had where they just left on the job site with no warning, no issues, no talks, nothing like that.
Oh,
Then it's like I really start to hone in, and now everything is shifted from just hiring who's available to if you're not a rock star, I don't want you. I don't want you because I'm trying to build, and I can't be worried about, is he getting drunk right now and he's going to show up drunk? Is he high? Is he in jail? Yeah.
Yeah,
Things like
right.
that.
Is
I
he
don't
not
have time for that.
representing the brand well in front of customers?
Exactly.
Yada yada.
Exactly.
So-
And and then also having the ability to actually do the work. A lot of men, we're all men, so we're like, yeah, I can do it. And then you get a month in and you're like, this is a lot.
Mhm.
Yeah. So tell me what the criteria is to in your version, what's a rock star look like?
I have 5 points. I don't know if I'll remember them all right here, but I have them written down on board at home. Number one, and it's not going to sound like a lot, but for the applicants that I get, sometimes it's a lot.
Yeah.
Number one, you have to already be hired. I don't. If you're not currently employed, unless there's some extenuating circumstance, like you're taking care of your cancer-ridden mother or something like that, you need to already have a job. Number two, excellence has a track record. If you spent the last 20 years being a dock worker at 14 different places and you never got a single promotion, that's probably a bad sign.
Yeah.
And that's not like sounds awful judgmental, but like you have to be.
You do.
You have to be.
100%.
What's some other ones? Drug free. That's a huge one. What else? I'm having trouble remembering the other two, but there's 5 points, and basically, if they don't fit at least 4 of them, I don't move forward with an interview. I'm not worried about it. Number one, honestly, the number one thing that most people don't do is just fill out the 4 basic questions that I ask in Indeed.
Interesting.
If they just answered those questions, they would move forward. So, like, even if you do have an engineering degree, which doesn't make you qualified to remove junk, but it shows that you've done something difficult and you've succeeded at something. You have sort of a track record.
Yeah.
They won't answer the questions. So, and they're not like philosophical questions. It's just basic general questions.
So you're having a hard time getting good applicants.
So no, I have a lot of applicants. You're right. I have a hard time getting good applicants.
Yeah.
So for the one rock star that I hired, he's actually about to go on deployment to Jordan. So he was Air Force Reserves. And they called him up. So he's going to be going to service country. And he'll have a job when he comes back as long as he wants one. He's my lead driver. His name's Jack. And I
spoke with him.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, that's Jack. Big, tall, blonde dude. I went through 100 applicants to get one rock star.
Are you serious?
Yep.
Oh, wow.
And how many guys you got now?
Two. I let one go on Friday and hired a new one on Monday. So the one that I hired was a friend of Jackson. Still learning. You learning as you go along, and you've got to kind of fill seats as they go. For someone like a number two, like our lead driver right now, I don't have a general manager or a vice president. That person is my number two. So I need you to be an absolute rock star.
Right.
You know? And that doesn't mean that you kiss my feet and, massage my back and tell me you love me. That just means like, you're trustworthy. You work hard. When you say something, I know that I can trust it,
Mm-hmm.
So my new hire, Trevor, he's starting today, actually, 150 applicants to get that one. So,
what?
Wow.
Yeah, well, so many people apply that are just absolutely not qualified. And you're like, well, it's just junk. And you're absolutely right. It is just junk. And the people that apply, I mean, I've had some, before I learned to screen interviews, before I go to interviews, I mean, I've had some people that are like nightmares. I'm like, what are you doing? People, I mean, one example, one dude applied, he was couldn't hold down a job at Domino's. He's currently on house arrest for 2 counts of child endangerment. And I'm like, he was crying on the interview. He's like basically begging me for the job. I'm like, sorry. I mean, that sounds brutal, but like, this is how I feed my family.
100%.
I'm not letting you in homes, if your child, I mean, like, you got to be,
you can't
make
have
a
that.
customer feel comfortable
For
in a
sure.
home. And that's not it.
So is a 2-man crew your sweet spot then, or are you looking
So we're
for
going to
more?
expand, but you don't expand in September. It's a bad idea.
Yeah.
We're going into winter.
Mhm.
So winter and service-based businesses slow down,
Mhm.
and you see that in the real estate market as well, right? So like
Mhm.
people aren't
Yeah.
willing to move as much when it's 20 degrees outside.
Yeah.
So it's the same thing, and we follow along a lot with the real estate market because divorce, death, move away to another state or area, and they're left with junk, so versus just the normal pickup.
So let me ask you this. Jireh Junk Haulers,
Mhm.
what is the ultimate vision, the ultimate goal of the business in terms of, hey, I want to be doing this much revenue, or I want to hire this many employees and have a team this big? Like, what is your vision for it? Where do you want to take it? Ultimate goal.
I would say cap in the Dayton market would be somewhere between 3 and 4 million a year with the population size we have and the available marketing dollars. So if I'm taking up a decent bit of the market share, we're going to look like that $3 to $4 million range, maybe 2 to 3, depending on our competition. That's a 4-truck operation, 5-truck operation, with 10 guys employed, and then a staff behind that, meaning a general manager and a phone team. So basically, buy back my time, get myself out of it, and have it run without me, and have a sellable product. If I can, if I have a business that's, service-based businesses, I believe usually sell for 3 to 5 times EBITDA. If you guys know what that means.
Yep. Know exactly what you're talking about.
So basically, if my goal would have the ability, not to say that I would do it, but have the ability to have a $3 million exit. Now that's Dalton's brain.
Right.
So that's not necessarily God's will.
Gotcha.
And when we get there and down the road, then I'll know more.
So let me ask you this, if not necessarily gonna happen, but would like to have the option. And I feel like that's what business is all about, is having the option and having the freedom and flexibility to do things, right?
Yeah.
If you decide to exit, who's the end buyer? Is it private equity? Is it, just somebody that that's looking to buy a business? And I do know that anymore there's becoming more and more businesses available to buy, and a lot more investors and people that are wanting to not necessarily start a business, but just buy an existing already profitable business.
Sure.
So who would that end buyer be if you do decide to exit? Do you know, or is it just kind of, we'll see as we go?
It's definitely going to be what we'll see as we go. I've seen other junk removal, connected to the industry. I've seen other guys who have sold at 1.5 sort of thing. And the end buyer is a guy who wants to run a company.
Mm-hmm.
Others might be, if it runs alone by itself as a unit without my influence,
Mm-hmm.
then maybe that's investors that come in and buy it and
Makes
just
sense.
keep everything existing.
Mm-hmm.
So that's really the goal, is to have it automated so that anybody could buy it.
Makes sense.
And that, they would still remain profitable. So if we can do a 20% profit margin at, $3 million or $2 million or whatever,
Mm-hmm.
then that's profit they're basically buying, and without any interference.
Yeah.
Mm.
And I think that's becoming more and more attractive for people, because less and less are wanting to actually start the business. They're wanting to just buy, like I said, just buy a pre-existing profitable business and skipping all of the, build
The
up
startup struggles.
Exactly.
And,
So,
and I'm sorry to interrupt you.
no, you go ahead.
But that is the worst part of the process, is the grind.
Mm.
And especially if you don't have capital to start, it is a grind.
Yep.
I've dislocated my shoulder twice. I have, busted up some ligaments in my foot, all because you're grinding and you're learning to get off the truck.
Yep.
But guess what? If your worker doesn't show up, do you tell your customer that you're not going to show up, or do you show up?
You're showing up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you get it done however you can get it done. And also, as a servant leader, you go in those jobs that are awful and you get it done. Whatever it is. The other day there was a fridge. Just to get into the nitty gritty, there's a fridge that's been filled full of food that's been rotten for 2 years. Yep. Worst thing you could ever think of. And do I tell my guys to go do it? I can say, hey, I'll pay an extra $250 a piece. But ultimately, nobody wants to do that.
Yeah.
No.
But it's good profit, so I'll go do it. It's good for the business, so I'll go do it.
So you talk about the revenue that you want to have. Where's your revenue at now? We talked about end goals.
Sure.
Where are you at now?
Where we're at now, right now, probably sits about 220. So last year, in our first full year, between April and then the end of the year, we made 200,000.
Nice.
It was a really good year.
That's solid.
This year, I don't know. They told us in the beginning, went to a mastermind in December, but with it being an election year, it's not going to be just as easy.
Yeah.
Inflation has gotten a little bit up, and people have been a little bit tighter on the purse strings, But
especially for your industry, because it's like, well, I'll just load up the trailer myself.
It's a luxury service that we provide. There's nothing saying you need to use us. If you have a pickup, you can go do it yourself.
Yeah.
Right.
I think for some it's definitely impractical, but it's something. This year we're at about 220. We really would love to. Our goal for the year was $400,000 in revenue, among other things. Unless a miracle happens, we won't get there. But does that mean that we're in a worse position? No, we're in a much better position as a business with a brand new truck that won't break down, and a much better team and process. Yeah. So this is a building year. Yeah. We're always growing.
Right. And you're only a year and a half in from when you started going full time. That's amazing.
Yeah, for sure. Business owners, do you know the value of creating a strong brand and realize social media is one of the best ways to do it, but don't have the time to stay consistent or know where to start? Do you need a modern website or an eye-catching logo? You only get one first impression, and you've got to make it count. No matter if you're looking for a website, a logo package, or if you need a professional to craft and implement a custom social media strategy to create a recognizable brand and drive sales, the Z&T agency has got you covered. Odds are you've probably been thinking about these things to some degree, but didn't know a solution. Or maybe this is all new to you and you're interested in hearing more. Either way, we'd love to talk to you. Reach out to zach.hire@theztagency.com to book your consultation call today.
What do you think you'll hit? 300,000 in sales this year?
I'm hoping for 350. We won't, but we'll see.
And then you're hitting 20% margins?
Yeah. So my margins right now, I have to go back and look at my P&Ls monthly and combine them in the year because I haven't done that. But basically, you're looking at anywhere between 15 to 25% margins.
Okay.
Somewhere around there, because a lot of our cash goes back into paid marketing
Okay.
because we have a lot of turnover. So we can service 6, 7, 8 customers in a day.
So I want to get into that here in a second, but are you owner, CEO, and then CFO too? Are you doing all the accounting? Are you doing all
No, gosh, no. That's the first thing I farmed out was my accounting.
Okay.
I cannot. I can't do everything for sure, but I don't do accounting well, and that's the last thing that you need to not do well.
Yeah.
Yep. For
So,
sure. So did you just go to a third party accountant and
Yes.
just said, "Hey,
Yeah.
here you go. Here's
Yep. They cleaned
Okay.
up my books.
nice."
And now it's like $300 a month, and they just
Oh, that's not bad.
Yeah, no. And then at the end of the year, we get it ready for the CPA and go in, and sit down and do all that. So
Nice.
I don't have to, other than just a few visits to the CPA. I'm good.
That's nice. And then I assume you pay quarterly, or do you pay year end?
No, year end is what we're paying now. We could do quarterly and file quarterly. It's just not something. It's not my area of expertise. So
Yep.
It's just kind of one of those things that you take as you go along.
That makes
Some
sense.
of the stuff you just let fall by the wayside.
Totally.
That's one of them.
Totally.
I'm not up to snuff when it comes to being on task, on target for
Yeah.
taxes.
So, despite working so hard, how much fun are you having running a business? Because you said that you were born to be an entrepreneur. How much fun are you having?
Well, I think with any business, there are really high highs and really low lows.
Certainly.
And one of the biggest tasks as an entrepreneur is learning to control your emotions and to just live in that moment. Or if you're in a really bad moment, try to rely, number one, on the word of God. And number two, in the fact that he's ordained you in business. Because if it was just me doing it alone, I would not be where I'm at. I would have quit a long time ago. But he sustains me and he provides. So does the name on the company suggest?
Yeah.
But sorry, what was your original question? Do I have
Are you
fun?
having fun?
Yes. Sometimes it's tougher than others, but when I sit and I take full account for all the many blessings he's given me, I get so much freedom.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes I'm locked in. I got to do what I got to do. You got to dig down.
Yeah.
So it's a little bit different than a W-2 where I might work some at 6 a.m, some at 7 o'clock at night. There's no set hours, but being able to take a break in the middle of the day and go play and fight with my son, play fight with my son or my daughter. I have a lot of fun. And there's certain moments that I remember in business where it was like, this is real now. This isn't just because the enemy wants to tell you all the time. It's like, you're just a poser.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Oh,
this is just a truck.
Imposter syndrome.
Exactly. It's like, that was just one house flip.
Yeah.
You're still a loser.
I get that all the time.
100%.
I could have 100%. A million things going on, and I come home and I'm just like, Steph, I'm a bum. I'm a bum.
You always feel like you're not doing good enough.
Yeah.
You're not hitting the mark. I totally get it.
Well, to piggyback off that, so what are some of the biggest struggles you've had starting up Jireh Junk Haulers? What are some roadblocks you've hit, obstacles, all that jazz?
The first roadblock was a reliable vehicle. And we got that with the green truck. Black truck, honestly, that truck was incredible for what it was. That big pile of junk got us down the road and made us a lot of money. Love that truck. But obstacles, number one, definitely still to this day, is controlling emotions on highs and lows. Number two, I would say I tried to do my own accounting at first, which was a mistake.
Yeah.
So that was an obstacle that we kind of overcame by, just hiring an accountant. And I remember, and as another obstacle is the money gets bigger, like the expenses get bigger. Mm-hmm. Everyone says, well, you run $1 million business, so you must have $1 million in your pocket every single year. And it's like, no, I just have a buttload of expenses.
Yep.
If I walk away with a 20% profit, I'm really happy. You know? So people don't realize that you can make $1 million and spend $1 million in one.
Yeah. So, yeah. 100%.
Right. But so that's been sort of learning process as I go along. Cause when I started, something breaks on the truck and it's $1,000 a fix. I'm like, $1,000. That's a lot of money. Right. That's a whole lot of money. And then you go along and, now it's like, payroll's due and that's $5,000 every week.
Yeah.
So like, and it's going to grow. It's going to get bigger and bigger. And that's one thing that I do want as I go along is bigger problems, not so that I can be stressed out just because if you're worried about spending $10 at the gas station, you know, you want to have those bigger problems.
Yep.
And be able to handle those.
Yep.
Not to be stressed out all the time. That's not the goal. It's just the bigger problems you can solve, right? The more money you'll make.
Yeah.
But back to your question. I'm sorry, I'm trailing off everywhere. What was it again?
What are some of the biggest struggles you've hit along the journey of building Jireh Junk Haulers?
All those things: accounting, emotional control, understanding that expenses get bigger and bigger, and then number 4 is absolutely hiring and firing. So those
now, how tell us, because you had to fire somebody on Friday. Tell us what that was like.
So firing for me, my type of leadership style is honestly, I just expect these things from you, and I don't want to have to go back and tell you to be a big boy and keep up your obligations.
Certainly.
So if you're not meeting expectations, I'm just going to cut you. And that doesn't mean like if you're late 5 minutes, you're gone. That's not what that means. I'm very graceful, but it's when it's consistent and habitual, you're gone. I'm just not going to deal with that. And I'm not going to set you aside and have a big boy talk. Maybe when we get to 10 employees, I'll have to start doing that. But I just expect you to just fulfill your obligations. So like the conversation on Friday was an employee who just couldn't fulfill the obligations. Great guy, love him. Would recommend him anywhere based off his work ethic. But as far as direction for the company, we need somebody else in the seat. So I call him and I talk to him, and he's fine with it. He's like, okay, I understand, and just treat him with respect and almost, I guess for me, I don't know if it's the goal, but I try to make them understand where I'm coming from. But I've never had anyone, freak out, go ballistic, and start throwing stuff or anything like that. It's almost always just a mutual agreement. Like, yeah dude, this work is hard. I'm not really meeting the spec. I'm going to go down the road. Yeah. So,
well, I think a couple things. One thing is that really ties into the management of emotions, right? Yeah. Understanding how to manage that when you're having those, especially firing conversations, that can be very difficult. And number 2 is, I think that just shows the kind of business mind that you have, and to be able to sit down and be like, hey, I care for this person. I'm not going to let my own personal emotions get in the way of what needs to be done to improve this business, because so many entrepreneurs, so many people will keep people and retain people much longer than they need to because they're afraid to have that conversation and hurt somebody's feelings, which, I mean, there's ways to do it gracefully, like you said. Yeah. But by retaining somebody a lot longer than what you should, it's just not improving the business. You know what I mean? And by you having that mindset and be willing to be uncomfortable and have those uncomfortable conversations, that's what's going to propel the business forward and get
upholding the brand.
It is.
Sure.
And it's allowing you to have that standard of rock star across the board.
Yeah. And I found that what's worse than you just giving someone a paycheck and keeping them on, and just being like, well, maybe they'll get better. What's worse is that it affects the other rock stars.
It does.
And they want to leave.
Well, and there's statistics to this, and I'm absolutely going to butcher this, but I've seen studies where it is an average person and they sit next to a high performer. Mm-hmm. That average person, and I'm not sure if I'll get these numbers right, but that average person's productivity, just by sitting in proximity to that high performer, increases by 20%, right? But on the flip side, an average person sitting next to a low performer actually impacts their productivity by 50% in the opposite direction. Oh. So and I'm not necessarily sure if those are the accurate percentages, but I do know absolutely that negative low performers drag people down more than high performers drag people up, and you have to be aware of that.
So quite literally, you're only as good as your worst.
Yes,
Quite literally.
quite literally.
A real world example of that was last week. We had a big job where we were removing some rubber mats at these parks, and they're very difficult, very hard work because they glue them together. There's like interlocking floor, so it's more than normal. So first day we got 4 guys out. Next week we got 6 guys out. Which is not crazy, but it's you got to manage that because if they're not productive, you're losing a lot of money.
Yeah.
Right.
And I'm sure it
Yeah.
scales, right? Like if you talk to Jeff Bezos and he's got 1 million employees or whatever, that scales. But I realized that I'm actually going to have to actively manage because there was someone in the team that was like, every 30 minutes, no big deal. I'll just go take a smoke break. And nobody saw that. And I'm like, oh, I'll take a break too. And it's like, we have a job to do here. So what do? Thank God. Okay, it's 10 o'clock. We're taking a 10-minute break. This is really hard work. We're going to sit in the shade, relax, drink water. 10:10, we're back to work. We'll take another break at 11. And then I don't want to manage you, but if I have to, I will, in those circumstances. Those aren't, those are bringing in temps. Those are bringing in other guys, not my normal guys.
Yeah.
So it's like, if I don't manage them, they're just going to chill.
Yeah.
And we're not here to chill.
Yeah. No, for sure. You got a job that needs to be done.
Yeah.
This wouldn't be the Blueprint podcast if the marketing guy doesn't ask you marketing questions.
Absolutely.
So, when you first got started, how did you start getting jobs? And then you said current day, you spend a lot of money in your marketing budget.
Yeah.
So what did you do at first to start getting jobs? And we'll hit that one. And then next of now I want to know what you're doing for marketing and where you're allocating those dollars. So to start, how did you start getting jobs?
So number one, before there was ever a dollar to spend, it's obviously the free channels. It's the Facebook. It's the Facebook Marketplace and those areas, just advertising for free.
Yeah.
When there was no debt on the business. So I still have a job. Everything's normal. No big deal. So you go along and it's totally free. And then eventually it starts with Craigslist. A lot of people talk smack about Craigslist. I get a 10x return off Craigslist.
Do you really?
I love Craigslist. Yeah. It's $5 a day to post. And 5 times 30 is
right.
$150 or whatever. Yeah. And incredible return. I do that every day. So for some reason, people still, still find me, still look me up, and I've gotten $1,000 jobs off Craigslist.
Dang.
Normally during the month we'll do. Sometimes it won't return as well, but on average, I guarantee that we're over a 10x return.
So you spend $1, you're making 10.
Yeah. I'll take
all day long.
Absolutely. And I tried Facebook ads for a little while. And at that point, it was no longer like the creme de la creme. And it was just making my money back. And making your money back when you're marketing, obviously, you can't do that.
No.
You need to make 2-3x at least.
I think that you have to have kind of a minimum of 3. Yeah. 3 to 1.
Yeah. So it just wasn't there. But when I went full time, immediately I found in the group that we were in, the Facebook group with all these other junk removal guys, maybe a couple thousand. It's who's the Google Ads guy? Who's that guy? Because I can't run a Google Ads campaign. Don't ask me about a keyword. I don't know. I just was like, I've seen other people ramp it up this way as the example and how fast it can work. And sure enough, get him on the phone. It's $400 a month to pay him to run your ad campaign. He has control of it, and then you control your budget. So I started off, and I, increased my budget. It was I think I started off at $1,250 a month, which depending on your industry, that can be nothing or that can be a lot.
Yeah.
But most time for Google, that's pretty affordable. And that first month full time in May, we made $20,000, and I was like, okay.
You made $20,000 off of 1,200.
That and the other. So he was getting me consistent. I think when I started, it was 5x return, which to start out Google Ads is
solid,
incredible.
Yeah,
because usually you have to build up, and it builds over time. You
Certainly.
Repeat customers and stuff.
Yeah, yeah.
So that's kind of where it started. Now we're at more I think we're at 150 a day, or like 3,500, something like that.
Okay.
In a month.
So you have him for $400 retainer
Yes.
a month, and then you have your ad spend on top.
Yep.
And then does he take a percentage of?
Nope.
Okay.
Thankfully, it's just straight flat fee. Is how he does it, and he's giving me the gold standard as far as conversion rates. It's really on the onus is on me to then make sure I close that customer and follow up.
100%.
And that's the next area that I need to farm out.
Makes sense. So are you only doing paid ads right now, or are you doing other traditional marketing?
No, so we can't just do that. We have to have a mix. Obviously, we have our social media, which we need to be better about. It's just a lot of other focuses went in other directions. There's a bunch of excuses I could give, but I'm not doing well enough.
Yeah.
Bandit signs, door hangers. Did an event this year.
Mm-hmm.
So slowly creeping up to do more traditional, and then I have a lot of networking events.
Okay, very
So,
nice.
H7. I probably should join BNI, but
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. They're kind of exclusive. I don't know.
Yeah. No, for
I
sure.
don't like all the requirements,
sure.
but I need to join just to join.
And
Greater Dayton Apartment Association, Greater Dayton Real Estate Investment Association,
certainly
all those sort of
just
things.
hitting all the different channels.
All of them.
Yep.
All of them.
And I mean, once again, wouldn't be the Blueprint podcast if I'm not kind of going into this. But so my wife and I own a marketing agency.
Mm-hmm.
And a big focus is social media stuff.
Yeah.
Man, I tell you what, like if you can start to grow and build that as
Mm-hmm.
well, I think that is just such a awesome avenue. It's long term, right?
Yeah.
You're not getting straight off the rip like you are with your Google ads, but you're building a brand, you're building trust, you're creating a unique opportunity, because studies show that people want to do business with people that they know, they like, and they trust.
Yeah.
Right. And social media is giving a unique platform for you to be able to show that, show your personality, show your integrity and your morals and what you stand for. And people will relate to that. And it gives you a platform to put out a piece of content, and it is continuously, perpetuated through, and people can go back to that. And it's just a really good way to build a brand alongside all the different channels that you're doing. It just basically adds fuel to the fire on everything else that you're doing. So, and I'm biased, 100% unbiased, obviously.
Yeah.
But I will say, if there's one thing, I would encourage you to make some time for that, because it is just, I can give you stats to support it, but
no, I know it's legit.
Yeah, for sure.
So is a 5x return on Google Ads. That's pretty legit too.
It is. It's kind of like to start out that way. It was a huge blessing from God,
for sure.
And it's not. I mean, his normal is at minimum 3x, because you need to be minimum 3x to spend that kind of money.
I think so too.
Because if I spend all that money to get it back, I have my cost of goods sold on top of that. It's extremely expensive, so it doesn't make any sense. I wanted to ask you a question though.
Certainly.
What do you see in social media is better? Is it the video content?
100%.
Yeah.
100%.
Edited,
especially
non-edited.
for you, people are probably super nosy about like the crap that you're hauling.
Yeah. Well, I would say, just think about, do you spend much time on social media?
Yeah.
Okay.
I would, yeah.
Okay. So just think about, from your perspective, what's engaging for you. Is it the videos on TikTok, on Reels, on all that kind of stuff? Or is it just scrolling through photos?
No, it's definitely the videos.
Definitely
the short videos are like crack.
Exactly.
Crazy.
Exactly. Now, I will say, from a business standpoint, that it's good to have a combination of both, both photo and video.
Yeah.
But what is really going to be engaging for prospective customers is that video. And the thing is, with that, our attention span is so low.
Yeah.
It's so low.
Yeah, it is.
So you can't just create videos. You have to be strategic about it, of where, our studies are showing that you got to hook somebody's attention within 2 seconds, 2 to 3 seconds. If not, they're scrolling, right?
Yeah.
So not only do you have to have really good content, but you have to have strong hooks, things of that sort. So you have to do it right. In what you were saying, and this is what I say all the time, of when you're running a business, it's hard to do social media right. You know what I mean? Because you don't have the time. You're
It's
spending.
not just hard; it's impossible.
I'm taking away the way I see it, and the struggle for me is I'm taking away from what's real to produce something that is manufactured. And I'm not saying like it's all real, like everything we're talking about here, this is legit.
Yeah.
It's just like, to take it into a product in video form and sell it, it's like I got more revenue to make than worrying about that crap. Which is a terrible mindset.
It is, but it's the truth because you have to work on your business, right? So, and this, I mean, this is literally at the core of like the conversations that I have with clients and prospective clients of, listen, in order to do social media correctly to where you're getting conversions, you're getting results, and you're starting to build a brand, it is a full-time job. So you can try to run your business, you can try to, run social media, but if you're trying to do both of those, you're probably taking away from both and you're going to be mediocre at both. Yeah. So the conversation that I have is you go keep the main thing. You go do what you do best. In this instance, let us, do what we do best. Let us focus on social media, and then we can come together to make something, really solid. So, I mean, and to your point, exactly what you're saying is 100% true. Yeah. You got to focus on, you got a business to run. Yeah. You got employees to manage. You got to go get new business. You got to, grow and scale a company. Yeah. Like you don't have time to, do social media the way that you need to do it.
Mm-hmm. I'm just trying to get dating. That's with my wife. I don't.
Exactly.
I know my wife's on me about that too. But date nights in the calendar.
Right. Yeah. Right. Which, sorry, I didn't mean to go on this big.
No, you're good, man. This is really helpful.
Yeah.
I mean, just thinking about it, all we do is just photo post just because I don't have time. Right?
Yeah. So it's just 100%. And I will say that having something is better than nothing. At least you have some form of reference because, and not to bore you, but I'll keep it to one. Statistics wise, 74% of people prior to engaging in a product or a service look to engage with them via social media. So 74% of people before they're engaging with, or before they're proceeding with a product or a service or purchasing that, they're wanting to engage with that company via social media. And I mean, I use this story all the time, but last Christmas, around that time, a couple of our friends invited my wife Tawny and I to dinner, and they invited us to a restaurant we had never been before. And sorry, Blueprint listeners, this is like the 75th time that you've heard this, but they invited us. We had never been there before, and I'm not like a huge fan of surprises. Like I want to know what I'm getting into.
Yeah.
So the first thing that, and we did this separately, that Tawny and I did was I immediately went to their Instagram page, and it's Sueño, downtown Dayton. And I looked, and they had 20,000 followers. They had fantastic content of video content, engaging the chefs and the meals and the ambiance and all this stuff. And I could see what it was like just from the content. In their bio, they had their website linked. So I could immediately go to their website straight from socials, straight from Instagram. I could pull up their menu. And before I ever stepped foot in that restaurant, I knew what I was going to be ordering. I knew what the ambiance was like. I knew exactly what I was getting into. And it just goes to prove that, because I thought that 74% seems extremely high. 3/4 of, you mean to tell me that 3/4 of people are needing to engage with a company via social media before they purchase a product or service? It's crazy.
I wonder if that includes like review pages like Yelp, Google, Apple.
I believe it is specifically social media platform, because Google is not considered like a social media platform. So your Instagram, your Facebook, your TikToks, LinkedIn, things of that sort. Wild, man.
Our primary focus when it comes to looking good in front of others is our Google My Business. That's the number one. And we have like in the last couple of years, we're basically at 175-star reviews.
Nice.
Which has been a huge ordeal. But like, I have not focused really on social media besides when I started. When I started and I had all the time in the world, that's when I made the shorts. That's when I made the content,
right?
You know, because it was growing and learning. And like, if I would have documented the process along the way, it definitely would have been helpful.
Yeah.
It's just like, you know, you focus on what you can get done, and then you get it
100%. And I do think, you know, obviously most optimal ideal is you're being comprehensive with all of these different marketing channels, right? With your Google, your paid ads, your Google reviews, you know, social media, traditional marketing, all these different things, right? So that way, when people look for Jireh Junk Haulers, they're, no matter where they go, they're seeing them. If they Google, you know, junk haulers near me.
Are you looking to buy, sell, or invest? Be sure to use a Maxwell Group at NavX Realty, where your dream is our passion. The Maxwell Group takes pride in client relationships and experiences. We utilize our knowledge, our love for the industry, and our extensive network to handle your life's biggest investment. Call or text Spencer Maxwell at 937-572-5382.
Google pops up. You see all the 5-star reviews that you have. If you hop on social media and you see that, you see the videos, you see all that kind of stuff. They see Dalton, they see your personality, they see your vision. They can relate to you. And then you tap into the paid ads to where you're reaching that cold audience. You know, just kind of from a comprehensive perspective. Obviously, that doesn't happen day one. You know, that takes time to build all those different things. But if you can work towards and start chipping away, getting there, I think that's ultimately where you're going to see productive return.
So then you guys video edit?
Yeah, we do all that stuff.
So for that sort of aspect, like for us, when you walk through a hoarder home, everybody knows it's a hoarder home.
Oh yeah.
So it's good content to have. Like it's, that's just our daily.
People would
like,
love that.
Right. So I've always thought like, oh man, if I actually put my head down and focused on this, but you know, as you said, the things get in the way. Do you guys go on site? Do you just say, hey, film the content, send it in, we'll ask you for what you need? What is that like?
Yeah. So there's a couple different packages that include, but what we did do was we just brought on and onto our team a professional photographer and videographer who's extremely talented at what she does. So she's able to go out and capture content on the behalf of a client and be able to, we even have the ability to get that basically social media post ready. So she'll format it into reels, TikToks, whatever, all that kind of stuff. We'll put the audio, like we do all of that kind of stuff. So, and then this podcast is about you. I'm so sorry.
You're good, man.
I'm sorry.
I like to learn.
But at the core of what we do is the social media management. But then we also have a graphic designer who's extremely talented. He builds websites. He'll create logo packages. He'll do packaging design. So he's actually Sour Strips, which is like the #1 selling candy in Target. He did all the package design for them. Anabar, which is in Vitamin Shop, GNC. He created all the package design for them. He's had work displayed in Times Square. So he's really good on the graphic design side. So we have that branch of it. And then literally just like 2 weeks ago, we expanded the branch of the professional photography and videography because it's very complementary to what we do with the social media. Yeah. It just kind of goes and fits hand in hand, right? So we're able to utilize that if, you know, just one-off clients need, you know, some things done in terms of content wise, or we can, you know, couple that with our social media stuff where in terms of that, we put clients on retainer and then we basically just completely run the business's social media and we do everything. So from all those different aspects, that's kind of what we do. And the goal is to ultimately continue to add those branches of the agency. We'd love to get a guy in here that does, paid ads, a guy that does copywriting, et cetera, et cetera. So that way we are that one-stop comprehensive marketing agency to where you don't have to go to a bunch of different spots for different things.
Absolutely.
And that's kind of what we're working towards right now. So
we'll have to talk more offline about that.
Yeah, we can definitely have a conversation.
Well,
for
to
sure.
piggyback off that, the whole content thing, what people would really like, I'm going to ask, and this is a little kid question.
Yeah.
Give me some of the most disgusting things you've hauled away in detail.
Oh, gosh.
And maybe some of the coolest things you've seen because you've been in a lot of houses.
Well, we've heard that refrigerator with all the nasty
the refrigerator.
Refrigerator. And to get more and more graphic, the doors were closed for those 2 years, but somehow maggots get in. So it's just full of, and food, when it sits for 2 years, it loses the color and it becomes black. So I don't know where on the color wheel that falls, but
that is so gross, man.
It's a smell that you have to have a mask. And I don't mean like a cute little N95 mask. I mean like a real deal, like
the
yeah. Oh yeah, exactly.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, like a gas sort of mask to come in and do. And yeah, man. Just so many different things. Gosh, I remember one of the first awful houses I walked into. The raccoons had taken over, and these investors had bought it. And not a dig against you investors, but I hate you all. I'm just kidding, Spencer.
Hey,
No. But I came in, and I was just joking, by the way. I don't hate investors at all. A lot of them use me. I love them, but they get this stigma, sometimes rightfully so, for trying to squeak a penny out of a dime, but which is their job.
Exactly.
But absolutely, I walk in this house and it has been taken over by raccoons and animals poop, and this is standard fare for me, no big deal. Except I think they just had a colony in here because the entire floor of this 1,200 square foot home was covered in about a 2-inch thick span of raccoon poop everywhere. They just that was their home for years.
That was the floor.
That was the floor.
That is disgusting.
And it gets worse. Specifically, I don't know if the cats came in and got in a fight with these raccoons, but there were 2 cats on the floor that were not recently dead, but probably like, you ever seen a carcass?
Yeah.
This was not a carcass. This was somewhere in between live and carcass. Jelly is what we could call it. But they still had their eyes and they were looking at me. Right dead in the living room, just kind of looking.
That is disgusting.
This is disgusting, but people are going to love it. Continue.
Dude. So like, those are one of those things that you don't want to touch or you'll probably have a throw up fit. So you get the shovel and you just scoop it up and throw it in the truck and go on down the road. So those are probably one of the more disgusting objects I've seen. Smells is a whole different category.
Yeah.
And surprisingly, for me, not much is worse than cat pee.
No, that is so true. Cat pee
rough,
is
dude.
ooh,
that people, they get in there and they just let it sit and funk up, like they just let their animals do whatever.
Yeah.
So letting that just sit versus, you go clean it up and whatever, you can make it better, but just letting it sit in that carpet for years. Someone who's smoking, 3 packs a day with the cat pee everywhere.
Just letting that marinate.
It's a soup. One house I did specifically, the water on a pipe had been dripping, and this house had sat vacant for 2 years. This was an attorney who was trying to work for the bank and get it, REO or something like that, get it sold. And Terry Blakely, love Terry Blakely. He's right outside the road.
Yeah, he is.
Oh, yeah.
A lot of work through Terry.
Because I used to work for a hedge fund, and I bought a ton of houses. Worked with Terry a lot.
Terry's a great guy. He sent me a lot of work. Love Terry. Very helpful from the start of my business all the way to now. But he sent me that to this house. He's like, it's rough. I don't know what's going on. But the guy said that there was like a water leak or something. I'm like, okay, cool. It's slab foundation. So there's no basement, thankfully, I guess. But the whole house was carpeted. And this water leak had been going for 2 years. So you walk in the house and it's like, 300% humidity in there. everything is soaked and the carpet is just squish, 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 squish. Well, you let that set for 2 years, there's going to be mold. So it's dangerous.
Yeah.
Mushrooms growing everywhere out of the carpet. I mean,
Mhm.
just a disaster of a job. So I ended up getting it done, by myself. That was some of the early days. But,
Ooh. All right.
uh,
Now, is there anything cool that you've seen that's worth
for
sharing?
sure. Some of them is just customers' homes. Other things is like the amazing things that they ask us to haul away that are like, you don't want that 70-inch TV?
Yeah.
Nah, just get out of here. It works? Yeah, it works. The other day, we're doing a donation run. Like, it's not super cool or anything, but just some of the stuff they ask us to haul away. I'm actually in cahoots with my mother right now on starting up like a thrift store, just because
Oh.
like that's another way that we can, quote unquote recycle, but also like support them if they try to move up here.
Mhm.
And as opposed to just junking these items, because if I pay storage on all these items or buy a warehouse at $5,000 a month and just store them all, it does me no good, and I have no time to sell this crap,
Right.
even though it's really good stuff. So that's neither here nor there. That's to be seen. But like the house I was at the other day, I got a brand new set of Callaway golf clubs.
Dude.
Yeah, super
What?
nice. Set of, which is my new set.
Yeah.
And the other ones, it was a pedestal washer and dryer, like Whirlpool, brand new. And his dad had passed away, and he was just like, I just got to get it going. I don't want to fool with it. Wow. So many people. I mean, and surprisingly, like if you had to take a guess of the best stuff that we find between like storage units or estate sales or this or that, what do you think that the best items would come from? Because it's consistent.
I mean,
I think you may have answered this already, so we'll let you ask. Take a guess.
Oh, you mean
You? Please.
I'm sorry.
I think I've asked him the question. We had
I thought
coffee.
that you were looking
Yeah.
at him. I would say probably those estate sales where people are just like they inherit a property. They,
They just want it off their back.
Grandparents, mom or dad, whatever, passed away. They live in Florida. They don't want to mess with it. Just get it gone. I would say that would probably be the most productive.
It's evictions.
Really?
Yes, I've gotten brand new laptops, Nintendo Switches, TVs, full sets of tools out of evictions.
Really?
They just leave it.
Wow.
They just leave it. I don't know. It's like that. I come from very humble beginnings, so it's like that poverty mentality of like once you get it, you spend it.
Yeah.
And they just like that's their.
And they just leave it.
They just leave it.
Really?
Yeah, man. Found gold, all this stuff.
Wow.
Yeah,
dude, I tell you what, I feel like that thrift shop, whatever, that would be such a good adjacent business, because you can just take all the stuff and then you could probably make some good money off
You're
of just
making money
selling
off of it twice.
Yeah,
100%.
I tell everybody I run the best game in town.
Yeah, right.
Oh, I'm just kidding.
No, that's solid.
That's awesome, man. So, speaking of socials and platforms, where can people find Jireh Junk Haulers? How do they get in contact with you?
Yeah, so Facebook, Jireh Junk Haulers, website, jirehjunkhaulers.com, email Dalton at jirehjunkhaulers.com, all that sort of stuff. If you want to reach out to me, man, just give me a call. Love to talk to anybody or text me. It's fine. I may not take it right away, but it's 937-545-3634. You want to talk about the junk business? You want to talk about Jesus? I'm your man.
Speaking of Jesus, we end the episode with a piece of scripture.
Yes,
What is
sir.
some scripture you live by, my friend?
It's a scripture I live by. So actually, I told you guys something initially, but then I pulled it up. It's the one that started me off. So if you don't mind, it's Luke chapter 7, and it's a story of the woman who had cleaned Jesus' feet. So it's Luke chapter 7, and I'll start in verse 36. When one of the Pharisees invited Jesus to have dinner with him, he went to the Pharisee's house and reclined at the table. A woman in the town who lived a sinful life learned that Jesus was eating at the Pharisee's house. So she came there with an alabaster jar of perfume. So to set the stage, we have this very righteous or self-righteous Pharisee who was a temple leader, big wig of his day, Jesus, the Son of God, God in the flesh, and this woman who was a prostitute. And as she stood before him at his feet weeping, she began to wet his feet with her tears. Feet in those days, they wore sandals and walked everywhere they went. They were disgusting.
Mm-hmm.
Then she wiped them with her hair, kissed them, and poured perfume on them. When the Pharisees who had invited them saw this, he said to himself, if this man were a prophet, he would know who is touching him and what kind of woman that she is a sinner. And Jesus answered him. And he said, Simon, Pharisee, I have something to tell you. Tell me, teacher, he said. 2 people owed money to a certain moneylender. One owed him 500 denarii or gold coin, and another 50. Neither of them had the money to pay him back. So he forgave the debts of both. Now which of them will love him more? The man who had forgiven 500 denarii or 50? He said, I suppose the one who had the bigger debt forgiven. You have judged correctly, Jesus said. And he turned toward the woman and said to Simon, do you see this woman? I came into your house, and you did not give me any water for my feet. But she wet my feet with her tears and wiped them with her hair. You did not give me a kiss, but this woman, from the time I entered, has not stopped kissing my feet. You did not put oil on my head, but she has poured perfume on my feet. Therefore I tell you, her many sins have been forgiven, as her great love is shown. But whoever has been forgiven little loves little. I love much because I've been forgiven much.
That's really good. Really good.
That is a good story to live by, my friend.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, that was great, Dalton.
Yeah.
Thanks for hanging out with
Dude,
us.
I appreciate you coming on.
Thank you guys so much
Yeah.
for having me. I love talking about junk or Jesus.
Hey.
Your man.
Junk and Jesus.
Junk and Jesus.
Your man.
JJ.
Yeah,
Very
baby.
cool. Well, that's all we got for the pod this week. Blueprint listeners, as always, we appreciate you. Stay tuned, and we will catch you guys next week.
Can I say one last thing?
Oh,
Yes, sir.
Yeah,
Yeah.
of course.
So we're actually hosting an event in Fairborn Community Park right out here, Fairborn Fellowship 2024. It's going to be an event free for everybody. I don't know how many Fairborn listeners we got in Greene County. It's for everybody, but just to come out and be loved on and take part and be the body of Christ. And for those people in your family and friends who are unsaved to come out and hear the word preached. Going to have games for the kids, bouncy houses, food trucks, live music, and at the end, someone's going to preach.
Cool.
Awesome.
Well, if you're in the Dayton metropolitan area or Fairborn specifically,
Yeah.
come on out.
Thank you very much.
Of course. Absolutely. All right. That's all we got.
Till next week. Peace.
Peace.